This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Fan.
Fire away. You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
Who?
It's a covenant cleanup.
Come on! I love it, baby. Woo!
Shall we begin?
Against Dane, now kicks it back out to midcourt. 10 to shoot. Jalen Williams with SGA out there with him. Williams on the move in the lane, floats it up and hits it over Rudy, who got up to block the shot and I think then thought twice about it. It would have been a goaltend, so he let it fall and it dropped in for two. We're tied. Dante into the game. Pops on a left side three and misses it off the iron. Kenrich Williams the rebound. And here comes SGA on the move. 5.5 to go, third quarter. SGA works against Nikhil. His cousin in the paint, rises, jumper good from the free throw line. Timeout, Chris Finch here. I'm not sure he liked that last possession. As Dante, that was a zero pass possession, dribbled into a left side three that was deep. It is their largest lead of the game. Nas posting up. Left side, poking in is Williams. Nas tries to spin off of it, runs right into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, rips the ball away. Here's Jalen Williams into the paint for the corner case and Wallace. Wallace on the attack. Going the wrong direction. Kicks out to Jalen Williams, who drives down the lane, double clutches, throws it up off the window for two more. And another timeout for Chris Finch. 4:19 left to go in the third. 66-60, 10-0. The OKC run.
What's going on, everybody? And welcome to the beautiful Omni Hotel in Eagan, Minnesota. 9 to noon with producer Nordo on site and Brett Blakemore, Brett's Breakaways, Brett's Bets, guiding the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN. Your audio leader for a radio show today that will include but is not limited to these three topics: football, the flop, and farmers. Football, the flop, and farmers. Now, second time. This is the second time the spring meetings, as we call them in the NFL business, have taken place at the beautiful Omni Hotel, Vikings Lakes, here right off 494 in Eagan. Second time around for these meetings, you can tell a lot of things are happening, and a lot of people are scurrying around this lobby. We've seen, I think, half the league's owners have walked back and forth in front of us. We've had an Arthur Blank sighting. We've seen Mark Murphy, the former president for the Green Bay Packers. Mark Wilf, who will join the radio show later, he's here. The likes of Bob Kraft. Nordo saw Jerry Jones. We have Stan Kroenke walking around in a $10,000 suit. Second time around at the Omni, they really are enjoying themselves. And second time around for the Minnesota Timberwolves, we hope to enjoy ourselves more than we did last night. Second time around needs to be better than the first time, and there's a lot to discuss off that loss last night to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, the final score was 114-88. The Wolves were leading by 4 at halftime. Then they get blown out in the second half, and there are several underlying storylines, in my estimation, that developed last night that, personally speaking, for me, are dramatically more concerning than the first game lost to the Golden State Warriors. And we're going to go through all of that during the course of the radio show today. OKC blew out Minnesota in the second half and claimed that 114-88 victory. They lead the best of 7 1-0. And, it's, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just the ways and means become rearranged. You come to a glitzy lobby at a beautiful hotel ready to howl, and the operative word ends up being ouch. So it's not like how. It's like, ow, ch-ch-ch. Can you give us a good ouch? Ow. Yeah. Wounded wolf.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, sound like a wounded wolf right now, please. Be a wounded wolf, because that's what we were last night.
All the turnovers. I mean, it's sometimes once in a while, as we're talking our way into a series, everyone will be talking about certain aspects. Well, you got to watch out for this, and this is the bit, and everyone clings to it. And a lot of times, maybe it's the most obvious, it's the most cliched, whatever. But in the end, for that to really come to the fruition that it did was crazy, man. Jalen Williams with those 5 takes last night, and the way that they were swarming you, and we had a little bit, Randall was victim to this several times, where he's trying to back a guy down, and here comes Jalen Williams. Here comes Lou Dort. Here comes the cavalry on the backside, and they were sniping it. The biggest points off of turnovers. We didn't have a transition point last night, PA. So our ability...
No fast break points.
No fast break points.
That's unbelievable that you can go a full Western Conference Finals game and not get one breakaway, dunk, layup, anything.
And so for a team, we had 5 more turnovers than the Oklahoma City Thunder last night. They were plus 21 in points off of turnovers. So just 5 more giveaways by the Wolves, but we were down 21 in that stretch. So the inability to cash in on the turnovers that we did force, I'm sure at some point, even throughout this segment into Dane and beyond, we're going to talk about some bench issues. And I saw this a lot. Finch didn't do this. Finch didn't adjust. There was this issue with the coaching standpoint. And this is a team, if they're going to win this series and advance to the NBA Finals, it can't just be starting 5 all night. Where you're going to need Dante DiVincenzo, you're going to need Naz Reid, you're going to need Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Yeah.
And so inconsistent shooting in earlier series really kind of, I would say, almost crescendoed last night into complete impotence by everybody on the bench. And as soon as they made that run, the Thunder did in the third quarter, and you're just expecting one last punch with a 10 or 8 or 10 point deficit into the fourth quarter, and then it never came. It was absolutely brutal to watch as so many things went the home team's way in Game 1.
The Timberwolves shot too many threes. They had too many misses, and it feels like the Timberwolves panicked a bit last night, and they got blown out. I mean, that's what there's so many underlying things, because from a bench standpoint, what did the bench guys shoot last night? I got it somewhere in the Toll story. 19 pages of notes. DiVincenzo 3 of 12. Oh yeah, the key 3 off the bench. Naz, DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 7 of 36 on field goals. 5 of 28 from 3. 2 of 2 from the line. 4 turnovers and 5 fouls. All right, so that's low hanging fruit. That matters. The turnover differential, the take-give that you mentioned, absolutely, that matters. What matters more to me is there are 2 things that defined that game last night. First and foremost, the Oklahoma City Thunder were begging to be down 15 to 20 points in the first half, and we wouldn't take the cheese.
Yeah.
We could not get over the hump, and it pisses me off right now. We were upset. You're trying to get to the NBA championship here, man. This is not Boshevsky. This is not Brandon Key. This is not Dalton Connect, man. This is the best team in the NBA. And when you're up 7, 8, 9 points in the first half, okay, and you got all the mojo and momentum going your way, that has to be a 15.
Yep.
That has to be a 15, a 16, a 17, or an 18. And I kind of felt when you and I were texting last night, and I think the last thing I wrote to you was, they're sitting on a 10-plus point lead here, but they couldn't get over the hump. And props to Oklahoma City for not letting that thing get out of hand. OKC was ripe for the whooping in the first half. Now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't come back and win the game, but we blew it there.
We did.
It's an absolute – it's a failure is the only way to put it.
Especially when you put SGA on the first half that he had. He was 2 of 13, and there was a lot of griping, some of it very valid. I think it was 4 or 5 minutes into the game. He had taken 7 free throws.
Yeah.
But in the end, 2 of 13 at the break. Everything was contested at the rim. He didn't look comfortable, and that was the best that you could ask for. Again, when we were talking about getting to know your foes and figuring that out, making Jalen Williams uncomfortable, the Wolves were fantastic at that, specifically in the first half. But then on the other end of it, it was, again, just bad turnovers, bad decision-making, and it looked like, you mentioned taking the cheese and the 51 triples. Dagnall and company, they didn't seem too mad about us taking all of those shots.
No, that's the second key point.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of details that can be analyzed, and that's what makes doing a radio show like this fun. Personally speaking, in my life and with 9 to Noon, I'm more of an overarching kind of guy, where there are a lot of details in life that may not be great, or they may be great, but what's the overarching answer to a situation? Like the way I look at it is the example I've used before. Is, say you're on an airplane, you got a middle seat, call it 23B, you can't get any armrest room, it's hot, the FAs aren't bringing water on your schedule in a timely fashion.
Window seat has to pee 4 times.
maybe there's a mechanical, you're worried about your connection, all the details of things that involve your lives and situations like that. Meanwhile, you got my man up in air traffic control. That's the overarching answer when it comes to this analogy here, where the overarcher is he's making sure the planes leave, making sure the planes land, and making sure they don't crash into each other. And those are the obviously things that matter markedly more for a lot more people. And when it comes to the overarchers from last night, the lack of ability to take a 7, 8, 9 point lead and make it 15 to 20 when they were begging you to do it. That's one. Secondly, when I mentioned that we took the cheese, here's what I mean. Mark Daigneault coaches the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right. So the Timberwolves were 15 of 51 from three, 36 missed threes. And let's not forget, in that game 1 loss to Golden State, they missed 33. In that series closing victory against the Lakers, they missed 40. Okay? Mark Daigneault, the coach for the Thunder, I swear, here's the bit, man. I'm just going to lay it out as plainly as I can. We know you like to shoot a lot of threes. We believe you think you're better at shooting threes than we do. So we're going to play a style of defense here where we're not going to leave you 5 feet wide open because you're NBA players. You're going to hit those.
Yeah.
Then you're going to get confidence, and we're going to lose at home. But we're going to scheme things in a way, we're going to let you have those threes. And we don't believe you can hit them consistently enough to make this a problem. We took the cheese last night on that, man. That's the only answer when it's 51 threes. And we took the cheese. Daigneault or Daigneault? I'm tripping right now.
I've gone Daigneault.
Yeah, Daigneault. Coach for OKC coach guy was right, and they were able to shrink that game and keep it close enough. Having played Sunday, they undoubtedly got some fatigue to them. They kept it close enough, and then it's go ahead and chuck up those threes, man, because it keeps your guys away from the basket. That's so super key to this equation.
It is.
OKC clogged the paint last night, man. That's why no fast break points. That's why Anthony's not streaking down the key after he beats somebody. There are too many people there. How many times did we see Julius Randle execute the bully ball bit? Barely ever.
He tried, man. But it was doubles all night.
Yes.
And, it was amazing, too. Again, great coaching job by OKC.
Yep. We took the cheese and got caught in the trap and died a game 1 death.
We took the cheese. We died in the trap. But speaking of trap, I think it was 6.5, 7 minutes left. Whenever Anthony came back on the court for the stretch, we're either going to win this game. We were down 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Then it changed. Then it was Caruso on the perimeter, and everywhere Anthony went, they're like, okay, we've let you mess around with the bench players clanking threes all night. Now that Anthony looks poised, he could potentially take this thing on a run and make it interesting. They just absolutely shut him down, and it almost looked effortlessly. That defensive unit is so locked in. There's a reason they were the best defensive team in the NBA throughout the season, but watching it in that moment was really eye-opening. So, the less threes, getting to the paint, and at some point we'll talk about the foul situation and all of that. But again, the lack of points on the run, the turnovers, and the inability to stretch a 4-point lead into 10 or 12. I think you've really keyed in on that overarching issue, as you talked about, with why we're staring at an 0-1 deficit into Game 2 tomorrow night.
But see, here's why a point like that, I think, trumps 10 detail-oriented trumps or points, because it was wire to wire.
Yeah.
It was a plan. I don't have confirmation this was a plan, but just watching the game and watching the way they played defense, they clearly were okay with the Timberwolves taking a lot of 3-point shots. So that, therefore, the belief has to be that we don't think you're as good as you think you are at doing this. And guess what? We saw it in the Golden State game you lost. We saw it in the Lakers game you closed them out. So we're going to let you do this, and we think you're going to cut your nose off to spite your face, and they were right. Now, Daigneault and Daigneault and Finch are widely considered to be two of the smarter coaches in the NBA. See you, Sammy. Thanks for all the help today, brother. Super smart coaches. And so, therefore, the first half of that game last night had some basketball snobbery to it, man. I mean, that was straight basketball snobbery. They couldn't get up and down the court because they wouldn't let each other. It really personified the chess match that is required to win to get to the NBA Finals. That's why things were so slow. That's why things were so slow to develop. And
I felt the pressure on my couch of that game, and you could watch two high-end coaches pulling the right strings at the right time. And again, we've talked, earlier series, it's like, that was an ugly first half, slow start by Ant, this, that, and the other thing. Last night we were watching elite defense and elite scheme makers doing their thing. It was awesome to watch. I felt the pressure from my couch, but then
it was basketball snobbery, man.
Oh, it was.
The first half was all about the coaches. And see, the thing is OKC's going to change things into Game 2. Undoubtedly, the Wolves will too. But when Julius Randle hit 5 3-pointers in the first half, I was like, okay, that's cool, because he has like 20 of our 42 points, 44 points. So it was cool that he hit those 5 threes. That ain't how Julius plays the game.
No.
Again, we took the cheese.
Yeah.
We got caught in the trap, and Oklahoma City is going to prefer Julius Randle shoots 15 to 23s a game.
Take him every game, man.
Keeps him away from the basket, keeps the OKC players out of foul trouble.
It's true.
So there was so much depth and breadth to the things that went into strategy last night. It was a basketball snobbery type game, but eventually when they started running up and down the court with the free will of the players taking over, that's when you get DiVincenzo and Naz Reid and certain players shooting way early in the shot clock, trying to play the hero ball Chris Finch has talked about before, and that's when a team runs away from you. So I have a little more concern about this series than I thought I would after a Game 1 loss, and we will chat about that during the course of the 9 to noon radio show today, where thanks to TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Dane Moore from the Dane Moore NBA podcast. He'll join us from OKC next. Mark Wilf, owner and president of the Minnesota Vikings, will join us later in the show. There he will talk about something that transpired recently. I mean, like within the last half hour. The Detroit Lions have withdrawn their playoff reseeding request. I think the steam was they knew it was going to get killed, so they didn't want to put it out there. So basically, a division winner like the LA Rams with fewer wins than a 14-win Vikings team that didn't win the division, they'll still get the home game in the first round. They'll still have home field advantage in the postseason. The president of the Vikings is okay with that rule, from what I understand, staying the way it is because of the importance of winning the division. Personally speaking, with all due respect to him, I think it's ridiculous. ridiculous that a 14-win team will still have to go on the road to play in the postseason. Ridiculous might be strong, because I have a lot of respect for winning a Division II, but we have plenty of time to talk about that. The president, Mark Wilf, joins middle of the show. Lavelli Neal III, the columnist, will be here at the Omni in the final hour. And today's show is about football, that flop, and farmers. And we have talkbacks coming up a little later today on the Timberwolves, thanks to Sioux Cup Manufacturing, another prize tied to that. But when we return, let's go down to OKC and chat with elite basketball mind Dane Moore about the Wolves' loss last night and see what he thinks. That's around the corner, but first, here's Double B with the cash thing.
The cash thing, the fan at BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with their national cash contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is bank for this hour. Keyword bank, KFAN.com. Keyword bank. Dane Moore talking Wolves around the corner, 9 to noon. Farm Aid 40 is coming to Minneapolis. Join Willie Nelson, Neil Young, Dave Matthews, and more Saturday, September 20th at Huntington Bank Stadium. Celebrate 40 years of music, food, and family farming. Tickets on sale May 16th. So they're on sale now. Get full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Elite basketball mind and frequent contributor to 9 to noon, joins from Oklahoma City at Dane Moore NBA via X, and listen to the Dane Moore NBA podcast, specifically the one that posted 45 minutes ago with Dane Moore and Britt Robson discussing the loss last night to Oklahoma City, and Dane joins us now. Dane, it's Paul Allen. What's going on with you, man? And what does one do with a day off in Oklahoma City?
We're about to find out, man. I don't know. I'm looking out my window right now. There's like 2 buildings here. I was thinking Oklahoma City, if I had to Midwest it, like it reminds me of Des Moines. Like I went down to Des Moines for a preseason Wolves game this year, and that's my best connection I have. Everybody seems nice. It's warm here, though. I can't complain.
Right. Yeah, it's murky and cloudy here. Rainy days and Wednesdays are getting us down. But think about the journey for you and the team and everybody involved the last few weeks. I mean, from Los Angeles to San Francisco to the tumbleweeds of OKC. I mean, it's that's a stark contrast right there, wouldn't you say?
It's been very different. It's been very, very. This is very different than the last couple of weeks. But yeah, man, I don't know. Let's see if it's the third series again, and everybody was feeling really tired by this point. Obviously, the players and team included last year when we got to Dallas for the conference finals, and I'm not sure where they are on that tired spectrum right now. I don't know how much that was a factor last night versus all the other factors that I'm sure we're about to get into.
Oh, okay. I'm going to state an opinion and see how you see it. Way too many 3-pointers. Obviously, too many misses. 51, way too many. And it feels like the Wolves panicked a bit last night and kind of played into the hands of what OKC wanted them to do. How do you see it?
Yeah, it's like when did AP win MVP? And they just put, what do you call it in football, 8 in the box? Yeah. Right? Where they're just daring you to pass. That's what the Thunder did. You know, we call it boxes and elbows, where you have a defender on each of the elbows and you have a defender on each of the lower boxes down there with another guy at the point of attack guarding Andrew Julius. It's almost like a really tight 1-2-2 zone. I mean, it's not a zone, but you're tight in there. So what do you do if you're Adrian Peterson or Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle and you're one person and there's 5 people in there? You try to get in there a little bit and you kick it out to open players for threes. And they did that. I don't think the quality of the threes was as good as it could be. I think Oklahoma City, the way they defend, they scramble around, they're chaotic, they're athletic, they're fast. They're trying to run you off the line, but that's their thing. They're like, we're going to start in here, and then we're going to sprint out at you to shooters. And I thought, the Wolves got sped up on those threes. I disagree with you. I don't think they shot too many threes, or not egregiously too many threes, because I don't know what the alternative was. And that's what Julius Randle said when I asked him about it after the game. That's what Anthony Edwards said after the game. They were just like, I don't know, man. A bunch of people in there at the rim, like, we need to knock down our shots. That's basically their mentality there. And I think that's, if we want to start talking about how the Wolves win this playoff series, the first step, I think, is to start the external players hitting shots on the perimeter so as to then open up the lane, stretch the Thunder out a little bit, and, he's loose, right? And AE is going to the basket.
Okay, and I agree with that. But however, if I formulate the opinion, if I'm Dagnall, the coach of OKC, and I take this opinion, all right, you guys shoot a lot of threes. We saw you in that series clincher against the Lakers win the game but miss 40. We saw you lose to Golden State and miss 33. We don't think you're as good shooting three as you think you are. So we're going to start there. In essence, being like, we're going to ask you to cut your nose off to spite your face. Now, it may change as the series goes on, but 51, lacking variance with the offense, there had to be other things there, even with the paint clogged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that to some extent. I think, practically what those things are, could you play through Julius in the post a little bit more? Could you play through Ant in the post a little bit more, kind of play there, maybe let them try to draw two and play, and play off of that? I think part of the issue there is, Julius would be the one you would really want to do that with, right? Like, catch it at 14 feet, try to get in deep, attract a second defender, right, and kick out if they double him there, or score if they guard him with one. I think the question is Oklahoma City a team that Ant and Julius can consistently score on in those situations, even if it's a one-on-one situation? Because those guys are being guarded by Lou Dort and Alex Caruso. I won't even try to do another football analogy here, but that's about as tough as it gets for when you're trying to score one-on-one in isolation in the post or wherever. So, yes, could that be a diversification of the Wolves' offense? Yes. I'm not sure that I think Julius Randle, as well as he's playing right now, is going to be able to just, give Alex Caruso work there every single time. I know he did that against Draymond, and I'm not saying he can't do that, but and Julius was great last night, but a lot of it was 3-point shots. And once they started trying to run him off the 3-point line in the second half, he only had 8 points in the second half after having 20 in the first half, when most of that came from three. So are there other things that they can do? Yes, offensively. I'm just not sure that those are going to be more profitable than doing sort of the same process of being like, we trust our 3-point shooters around the perimeter here. They didn't hit them in the last game. We learned earlier in this postseason that these things can swing back if we approach it with confidence. I think there's totally a world, man, in Game 2 where the Wolves make 21 of 39 threes and they win by 18 points because if Oklahoma City gives them those things again. Diversification, sure, but they're not winning this series unless they're able to stretch the floor and loosen up the paint with that 3-point shooting. That's just who they are.
Hey, Dane, the Wolves did such a great job on Gilgeous-Alexander, specifically in the first half last night, 2 of 13 shooting. I know he had 7 or 8 free throws there right out of the gates, but terrific job in the first half. Is there a mental element that Finch's crew has to deal with, though, where at times he's getting that whistle and you almost feel helpless in regard? It's like, what do I have to do to feel clean playing defense against this guy? Is there a mental thing they're battling there with SGA?
I think less than you'd think. Being in the locker room last night, that wasn't a huge point of conversation when the mics were on or when the mics were off. Is there some frustration around that stuff? For sure. You saw the players show that frustration on the floor. I've just been in plenty of locker rooms before where the guys are pissed about the way the game was officiated. They're vocalizing it to themselves, and they're often vocalizing it to us. I'm just saying, at least for last night, anecdotally from my experience of being there, it was not as big as anywhere near as close as when I looked at Twitter this morning, and those were the first 40 tweets I saw.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there something difficult to guarding Shea? Yes, that's part of his game, just like it was James Harden. And I know it is fine to not like that. I totally get that. But this is how the Thunder played all season to great success. Shea effectively getting to the free throw line, and then they guard this way themselves, where they probably foul you more than they get called for, but it's part of their strategy, and it's worked. It's not going to change in game 2 or 3 or 4. Oklahoma City is going to play the same way, and is going to target the same things going forward. So if anybody in that locker room does have that in their head of like, oh, we're getting screwed, I think they're just screwing themselves by like letting that sort of seep in and marinate. We know this team does that sometimes, right? Like, I actually think that's been a big corner that they've turned over the past couple months. There's way less complaining and victimizing themselves about the officiating, even if they did get a little bit victimized by it last night. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Dane Moore at Dane Moore NBA joins 9 to noon frequently. He's in OKC, game 2 tomorrow night. About they say 7:30, man, but it was like a 7:47 tip tap last night. You'll hear it on KFAN. Second overarching big point for me outside of those threes where. I don't have to be right, man. That's why we all formulate opinions. But off that 3 game, I just think the Wolves took the cheese that was being offered by OKC, and they got caught in the trap, and they got beat. So it may be different in game 2. But secondly, did the Timberwolves legitimately waste a first half opportunity to build a big lead, man? I mean, that thing would get up to 7, 8, and 9, and OKC, which played on Sunday, looked like it was about ready to be run away from in the first half, which doesn't mean they can't come back and win the game in the second half. But the Timberwolves couldn't get it over a hump to make it double digits in the first half. I think that was a missed opportunity. What about you?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it was kind of one of those funky games where you're like, Wolves are up 24-18. You know, you're like, I don't really feel like they're winning, but they were. And then it was like end of the second quarter, they're up by like 8 or 10, and you're like, okay, like doesn't feel like they're playing great, but they're winning. And that was a lot about, you know, their defense and effectively limiting Shea and doing that in the second and in the first half. I thought a critical play was, and I even thought it at the time, it's like 25 seconds left in the second quarter, and Jaden McDaniels picked up his second foul. I think it was just like guarding Shea as he was like coming up the court, crossing half court. And I was like, ooh, that's a second foul on McDaniels. You know, he does have foul trouble, but like, would have been nice if he just had if he had 5 fouls he could use in the second half. And he got that second one, and then he picked up 2 more right away at the beginning of the third quarter and had to go to the bench. And I thought that was when the game started to turn, right? In the third quarter, middle of the third quarter, Jaden sort of comes out, and the defense, I think, lost a lot of its effectiveness and its teeth without McDaniels there. I think they need to stay out of foul trouble, and they need to be able to defend in this series. And Jaden's going to do that if he's not in foul trouble. I think the other variable here is Rudy. And because when Rudy plays, teams score less, way less. And right now it really feels like they're fighting this battle of, can we survive Rudy's offense enough to profit off of what he's giving them defensively? And I think to win this series, they need both Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert to be great defensively, as they are great defenders and can be. Rudy's this is going to be a weird series for him, man. They're handsy over there. They're going to strip him. It's going to be tough for him to provide any offensive value. And I think you saw Finch kind of go the other direction yesterday and lean into offense. Rudy only played 21 minutes, man, and that number just kind of has been low all postseason. You know what I'm saying? It's like they need his defense. They need defense here to limit him, and I don't know how bankable it is from Rudy given the offense.
You know, Dane, Rudy got those 2 fouls really early. Naz comes in, 2 minutes, 2.5 maybe into the game. So that kind of switches things up. The other thing, I'm curious what your thoughts are, like the best way to feed him. And I feel like Rudy was kind of getting a raw deal perception-wise where you put him in a couple of spots last night where you're getting him the ball. He's got to do this Euro step bit, the 7-footer. It just looks weird.
Yep.
And then there was another moment where they lay it off to him, and he was completely in an unprepared, awful spot to be able to take it. We're never going to celebrate the impenetrable hands of and the sticky hands of a Rudy, but I think he was also kind of put in a bad spot by our guys a couple of times last night.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about the ones where he's taken the Euro sort of floater thing, right? In those possessions, and we can all picture that, we've seen this a lot during the course of the season, it's called getting the ball on the short roll, right? You set a screen, you roll. When they double Ant up top there, Rudy's guy doubles Ant, the only player that becomes open at that time is Rudy on the short roll. The other 3 guys are still guarded by their 3 players, and Rudy's going to be wide open in the middle of the floor to the basket. But you, like many other people, don't like that because Rudy catching the ball at 12, 14, 8 feet from the basket is scary because he's not very fluid there, right? Sometimes he makes the pass out of there. Sometimes he might make a layup. Sometimes he might be able to get all the way down to dunk it. But most of the time, it's just funky, right? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Can you afford to have him on the floor? Because on that possession where Rudy gets it on the short roll there, after Ant has been doubled, my question to you would be, what else would you suggest that Ant does with the ball at that time, given that the only player open is Rudy Gobert in the middle of the floor, and he's double-teamed? It's what Finch is telling him to do. You got to hit Rudy. You got to hit Rudy there. So it's not a question of should they pass Rudy the ball there. The question, I think, is should Rudy Gobert be on the floor in that situation to even receive the ball there? Because that's where, they say make the right play, make the smart pass. That's the smart pass. The question is Rudy good enough to justify the intelligence of that pass? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But it also plays into the phrase of taking the cheese, because it's like, we're gonna leave this here visibly for you. You're going to take it. We know consistently he can't do it, and until you show us he can, we're not going to stop. Until you show us you can hit high volume threes, we're not going to leave you open by 5 feet, but we're going to give you decent looks because we don't think you consistently can hit them. So it's a lot's going to change.
No, you're right,
too, man. And
you're right. And I absolutely get what you're saying. It's just that's a smart game plan. They're making their game plan be like, hey, we're going to have the Wolves bench shooters have to shoot a lot of threes. We're going to have Rudy Gobert catch in the middle of the floor and make a decision. If you and I were making a game plan to play against the Minnesota Timberwolves, we would say, how do we keep Ant and Julius out of the lane and the ball out of their hands and put it elsewhere? They're taking the cheese. It's just like it's a smart mousetrap.
Right, but see, like Naz last night, man. I mean, you know it better than anybody because you're either at the games, but you're covering all of them. Naz obliterated OKC this year. And granted, some guys were down, and he got, starter minutes and stuff like that. But, man, did that thing just flip last night with Naz Reid. He was aiming his three-pointers, and he was just off. All right, greatly appreciate you. Enjoy your day. The Dane Moore NBA podcast from last night is up and available right now, and you can learn more about that at Dane Moore NBA via Twitter. Appreciate you, man. Have a good day.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Yep, see you, bud. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, joins 9 to noon next.
And
Carboni's Pizzeria wants to fuel your playoff party. Visit one of their 30-plus locations to enjoy delicious pizza and get ready for the playoff run. Find your nearest Carboni's today at Carboni'sPizza.com.
9 to noon continues from the Omni Hotel in Eagan at the spring league meetings for the National Football League. A break from the Western Conference Finals of the NBA to the NFL with the very best. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, PFT, he's also an author, and he joins us now. Mike, how much of the book did you get done last night? Did you go to pecking away and get much done?
Well, you actually remember our text exchange, and it happened exactly as I told you it would. I did not watch Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. My son monitored carefully. My son repeatedly texted both score updates and complaints about the habit of players specifically drawing fouls in soccer-like fashion by taking dives and whatnot. And It looked like for a while that the T-Wolves would pull it out, but then I realized, yes, it was not going to happen. And through it all, I got a lot done on the latest manuscript that I'm trying to turn into something that maybe people will read.
Excellent. Do you not necessarily PFT, weight, because you do a lot of work there, and I know you love writing. But do you ever have days or weeks where you just don't feel like writing a book?
Sometimes it takes a little bit for me to pull the cord on the lawnmower, but once I sit down and focus on it, I can get a lot done in a short period of time. And that's just a product of 25 years of getting a lot done in a short period of time every day, writing about the NFL and how it goes. And this is probably stupid and will shorten my life, but I can't get to it until 9 o'clock at night, if then. Mm-hmm. Last night I got started at 9, and I got in a groove, and I went to bed at 2:30, and I had to get up at 6:30. So that was not wise. But the problem is, and this is one of the realities of doing it at night, your brain gets very active and very fertile, and it's hard to turn your brain off. And even though I wanted to go to bed at midnight at the latest, I knew I was just going to lay there and think about what else I wanted to do once I was in that mode. So, yeah, once I'm in it, it's hard to get out, and it's not all that hard to get in. And I've gotten to the point where when I get on a plane now, while I'm waiting for the rest of the plane to fill up and the thing to take off and taxi and all the stuff it's got to do, I pull out my phone and I can thumb out a chapter in that half hour before we get to cruising altitude and everything kind of calms down. So I've gotten to the point where I can pretty much jump in anywhere that I am, and I just enjoy it. It's a way to escape from all the other stuff that, we have to deal with, and we all have stuff that we have to deal with. We have just the monotony of the job for anyone, whatever it is, whatever you do, you have moments where I just need a break. And for me, that's just my refuge, where I have a creative outlet and I'm doing something. I don't know how good it is, but I know I can create a lot. And my wife says from time to time, you should focus on quality over quantity. And it's like, thank you so much. But for me, the goal is just quantity. There's only so many words I can write over the remainder of my life. And my very loose strategy is, if I can just write enough books before I drop dead, there's a chance one of them won't suck.
Amen. 9 to noon is at the Spring League meetings for the second time. They've been here in Minnesota next to the facility at the Omni Hotel. And, they're voting on all of the big spot potential rule changes right now. So a lot of stuff will be dropping within the next 45 minutes involving that. But into 9 to noon today, in fact, you can read about it at ProFootballTalk.com, the Lions withdrew the proposal to change playoff seeding. Was there any surprise to you that they dropped that? Because the intel here at the hotel, and I've been here several hours, is that the Lions knew that this was going to get shot down, and quite honestly, it wasn't going to be close, so they just withdrew it. What do you think?
Here's the thing to remember about this, and Rod Wood, the president of the Lions, was probably more candid than he should have been about how the sausage got made. He admitted back in late March, early April, that the league instigated this. The league approached the Lions after Amon-Ra St. Brown made comments before that Week 18 tilt between the Vikings and the Lions, where winner's the 1 seed, loser plunges to the 5 seed, despite having a better record than multiple division champions. Amon-Ra St. Brown said, I don't make the rules, but that's something they should look at. The league said, hey, we kind of like this. Would you like to partner on a proposal? And it exposes a weird little aspect to the underbelly of how things work. I don't know why this just didn't bubble up through the competition committee. I don't know if the league thought it would have more credibility if one of the teams would be the one to say we should do this, and then the league gets behind it. But that's what happened. And I heard at the spring meeting in Palm Beach when this was discussed, and the commissioner who wants this, because the commissioner believes, and I don't think the logic holds, but the commissioner believes that it will lead to more compelling Week 18, Week 17 games that then become more attractive to standalone windows, more financially viable for the networks, and in turn the league. The commissioner got upset in the meeting. That was the perception of at least one person who was in there when he got pushback. So they tabled it at the time in lieu of putting it up for a vote that loses. They brought it back for May, and now they realized, it's not going to work here either. Let's cut and run, and it'll be back next year. I don't think the league is going to give this up, and I think the league right now is focusing all of its arm-twisting effort on the Olympics resolution that passed yesterday, and also I believe the league is as behind the Packers' anti-tush-push proposal as the league was, admittedly, according to Rod Wood, behind the playoff positioning. So I think that's the key. It's not going to go away. And they're going to try to reformulate it and bring it back. And one thing I think they really need to do, I wrote about this yesterday, if you're going to wipe out the division championship as determining your playoff seeding and make it just record, and it's going to be 1 through 7 in the conference based on record, they need to take a hard look at the schedule to build in more conference games. Because if you're going to be apples to apples, conference record in conference, I mean not against each other in the conference, but you need more games in the conference so it washes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fewer interconference games, more conference games. I think they need to do something like that to sell this idea that we're going to seed regardless of whether or not you were a division champion.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. What do you make of Brock Purdy's massive extension he got a couple of days ago?
Well, I think that like with any big contract, Paul, the proof comes out days later. And we know how this goes now. The agent leaks the best possible numbers to a group of reporters who then commence a race with their thumbs on Twitter to get it out there first. And part of the game is you don't get the text if you don't go along with perpetuating the biggest possible number, and then the truth comes out later. You know, the initial ambiguity / misrepresentation is it's a $53 million contract. It's not. It's a $45 million contract because the year that he was going to make, the money he was going to make this year, $5.346 million, that gets subsumed within what's supposedly in his extension. There's no extension in the NFL. The old contract gets torn up, and there's a new one. And that new contract is for 6 years, $45 million a year. Once we know key factors like signing bonus, full guarantee at signing, cash flow for the first 3 years, what year the 49ers can rip it up and move on if it's just not working, those things all come out later. So we're still waiting to get that. And at last check, the final contract hadn't even been signed. Now, they announced it yesterday, but I heard earlier today they're haggling over language still. And I asked the 49ers if that's true. I don't know that that's true. It's possible it was signed before it was announced, but they're having a press conference later today. So I'd like to think they get his signature on the bottom and it's fully done. And then once it's done, it gets filed with the league, it gets filed with the union. I've got the network in place to get the numbers, and then we break it all down and we see what it's really worth. But I have a feeling, I mean, it puts him in new money average, tied for 7th. I think within a year or two it's going to be a middle-of-the-pack contract, and that's probably where it should be. He's a middle-of-the-pack quarterback, and there's no shame in saying that. The guy was the last pick in the draft. To be in a position where 15 or 16 guys only in the entire world are better at playing quarterback in the NFL than you, that's a hell of a win for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Very, very well laid out. Okay, well, what about Nick Sirianni, Eagles coach? As much of an in-your-face wild card as he can be, truly, he has done wonderful work out Philly way. What do you think of that?
Well, he got a multi-year extension, and all we know that means is he had a contract that lasted through this year, and so if he gets a multi-year extension, he's under contract for 3 years. That's all we know by basic logic, which is about all I'm qualified to engage in. He met with reporters yesterday and refused to go into any details, and there's a strange disconnect between the fact that we know everything about what players make. We know nothing about what coaches make. And, you know, people will say, well, why do you care? Well, it's a public sport. It relies on money from fans. It relies on attention from fans. There's a salary cap. We hear different things about the money that gets pumped into these teams and what they're worth. I think it's fair to know what coaches are making. I think coaches should want that out there because I think eventually people would realize, hey, wait a minute, the player pay is going up a lot faster and a lot more significantly than the coaching pay. And I think that if we had access to all the numbers for the past 50 years, I think we'd see a far more dramatic increase in player pay than coaching pay. And I just think that in a sport like the NFL where they want us to pay attention, they can't pick and choose what we pay attention to.
What the first time we've chatted since the schedule came out and the Vikings schedule. I mean, we're not going to go through it game by game, but at Chicago, Monday Night Football to start things. Then you have back-to-back Euro games, 4 of 5 on the road, late in the schedule. It's the schedule for the Vikings is meaty, but I think it's really, really cool. What do you think?
Well, we know who the opponents are going to be and where the games are going to be played as soon as the regular season ends. But the key is how those games are laid out. And if you get some of your quote-unquote easier games early, that's a bonus. When you're breaking in a new quarterback, you'd like to have some games that you feel like you can win. And the Vikings did get an advantage with this 2-game road trip to Dublin and London. They removed 2 typical road games from the schedule and replaced them with neutral site games. And that's a hidden advantage for the Vikings. If you're going anyway, you may as well go for 2. Because now they have 7 true road games this year. The rest of the division has 9. So, for example, the Lions, instead of playing their 2 AFC North road games at a neutral site, they have to go to Cincinnati and they have to go to Baltimore. Now, they got lucky. Those games are early, not late, when the weather would be an issue. But the Vikings got a little bit of a hidden edge there as it relates to the other NFC North teams and most of the other NFC teams. Most of the other NFC teams are playing 9 true road games. The Vikings are playing only 7. Now, if they lose both games, it doesn't matter. But they're in a better position to win those games than if they had to go to Pittsburgh, if they had to go to Cleveland, especially if the way the schedule had shaken out, they would have been going to Pittsburgh or Cleveland in December or January.
Lastly, Jason Kelsey, the former center for the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe he's here at the Omni to share with owners and or lobby what he thinks will be facets and or tidbits about the tush push that maybe are being overlooked. So that whole thing's going to come down within the next 45 minutes, whether it's still a thing or not. Just in closing, this hopefully is the last time we ever talk about it. What do you think of the brotherly shove, the tush push, the Jalen Hurts bit? What do you think of that whole thing?
Well, first of all, Kelsey's wasting his time, Paul, because this thing is dead. It's going away. There's enough people out there that want it to go that it's going. The thing that bothers me is there's a shifting justification. Oh, it's an injury risk. Where's the data? Well, we don't have any. Well, why don't you have any? Hey, it doesn't look like football. How about that instead? And I think there's enough different camps as to why they don't like it, or at least why they say they don't like it, that can come together and they can get 24 to vote it out. But I'm hoping somebody stands up in the room and says, hey, people, are we thinking about what's going to happen once we do this, once we rewind the rule book to 2005 and eliminate all pushing or pulling of the runner anywhere on the field? I mean, first of all, they never throw a flag for assisting the runner. The last time a flag was thrown for assisting the runner was in the 1991 playoffs between the Bills and the Chiefs. Tim Grunhard was called for it. That's the last time assisting a runner has been called. They're not going to call downfield assistance. This is just a way to get rid of the tush push. So, okay, you get rid of that. The Eagles are still going to have a quarterback sneak that is unstoppable. And put me in the camp that is hoping week 1, Thursday night, Cowboys-Eagles, first snap of the game, the Eagles run a quarterback sneak and gain 5 yards just to prove the point. I'd like them to do the whole drive as quarterback sneak because they're still going to have an unstoppable quarterback sneak. So who cares if you can't push Jalen Hurts in the ass to get him where he's trying to go? He's going to get there anyway.
I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon, all right?
Bye, Paul.
Bye. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Now, around the corner, we are going to queue up a bunch of Timberwolves-related talkbacks, all right? And we're going to play them back about 25, 30 minutes from now after Vikings president and co-owner Mark Wilf joins us from the Omni Hotel and the Spring League meetings. And some of the we'll go over some of the suggestions for the talkbacks. Of course, you can create whatever you want to create over 30 seconds at the free iHeartRadio app. But we do have a prize tied to it. And thanks to Sioux Cup Manufacturing, we've been giving this away this week, and we're going to continue the rest of the week and really for the rest of May. And here it is.
Indeed. Excited to hear those Wolves talkbacks, but this is about the farmers right now. Thanks to Sioux Cup Manufacturing, Fan on the Farm. If you're a farmer out there, where are you at? And what you farming? We're excited to hear about it. And one of those talkbacks later in the show, Brett will decide the winner. You're going to get a Sioux Cup Manufacturing prize pack that includes a Carhartt cooler, Brewmate canteen, portable JBL speaker, coffee tumbler hoodie, and a Sioux Cup baseball cap. So free iHeartRadio app, hit that microphone, give us up to your best 30 seconds. Where you at, what you farming, and how you howling a day after that Game 1 loss.
This is 9 to noon from the spring meetings. We are at the Omni Hotel in Eagan. Eric Nordquist produces on site, and I'm Paul Allen. Brett Blakemore guides the Great Ship Love Covenant, and we'll set those talkbacks up around the corner on KFAN.